So the GTA Remaster Trilogy appears to be real and coming to Switch. So this is coming from Zach Swisen at Kotaku, not Kotako, Kotaku. After months of rumors and speculation, Kotaku has learned from sources that Rockstar Games may be remastering 3 classic Grand Theft Auto games. Currently appears that these games will be released later this fall for a multitude of platforms, including the portable Nintendo Switch. For the past year, rumors have swirled on Twitter, Reddit, and various message boards that Rockstar is working on remakes and remasters of the classics PS2 era Grand Theft Auto titles. These rumors only grew in popularity as Rockstar's parent company, Take-Two Interactive, used DMCA to take down or remove classic GTA mods from the internet while announcing that the publisher had 3 remastered games in development. While Kotaku can't confirm what all those teased remasters titles specifically are, we can confirm via corroborating details from 3 sources that GTA remasters are currently in the final stages of development. So, Adam, any sort of surprises with GTA Trilogy being remastered? You kind of called this last week.
I was going to say, I'm not surprised I called it.
Now, are you thinking we're going to get like a one combination with all 3 games, or do you think these are going to be sold separately?
No, it's going to be, well, because they've already released the trilogy before in one fell swoop, so it's going to be one disc or one big file, kind of like what the Mass Effect Legendary Edition was. I imagine that's how it'll be.
Okay, yeah. So I figured instead of us doing like a whole like, oh, should they do this? Which one should it be? I thought we should just have a fun thing and just discuss, do you want to rank all the GTAs, or do we want to rank just the top 3?
Just do top 3, but I will say one more thing just about the remasters. I've heard that it mostly might just be a facelift and might not touch the gameplay. If that's the case, if they don't touch the gameplay, I'm not buying it. Because graphically, that's not good enough. Because like the gameplay, I went back and played Vice City when I first moved into this apartment because I broke out my old PS2 and was like, I wonder what it's gonna, if this is aged well at all. And I played Vice City. It controls like ass. It controls like a game that's 20 years old. Because it is.
I tried playing the original Grand Theft Auto 3 a couple years ago, and like it's fine, but like it's not great. Like it's got some wonky game decisions and some controls that are just like
the only other thing I would say then is if it comes up for PC, get it there because I'm sure somebody will mod it and make controls 100%. Better.
Yeah.
It'll be better that way. But like as it stands, like a graphical upgrade is not enough for games of this age.
Mm-hmm. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to just rank by like best game? Do we want to do it by like most significant? Like, do you want to just do like just generally like top 3 or whatever?
Yeah, do your own thing. If you want to do top 3 in terms of what you think is better or what you think was more significant, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so we're going to keep this just to the main ones in the series. So just to recap everybody, we are going to do Grand Theft Auto, Grand Theft Auto 2, Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto 4, and Grand Theft Auto 5. So, Adam, what is your number 3?
Number 3 would be the one that kind of got me introduced in the first place, and that's the one that's currently on screen right now. If you're watching on YouTube, that would be GTA 3. To this day, I don't think a game that I played kind of really made me kind of see where like how different games could be, because back then, like, yeah, I could play things like, your Golden Eyes and stuff like that, but to me, this kind of an open world felt new to me because I never had a gaming PC ever, so I didn't have like your Diablos or things like that could have shown me what that was. This was like my first foray into a truly like what felt like a lively world to play in, rather than just playing like Final Fantasy games or Mario games or Zelda or anything like that. This truly felt like a world I could like explore, and it felt real to me. Whereas, you get used to so much of a fantasy aspect to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I totally hear what you're saying. For me, I'd put number 3 as Grand Theft Auto 2. Like, I think that game really kind of just, it's a fun game to play, and it's still fun to this day. The top-down view is really unique. It kind of takes what Grand Theft Auto 1 did and then just kind of improved on it. So for me, I'd put Grand Theft Auto 2 as sort of being my number 3 game, just for being unique and different.
I never really played, like, I must have played like the top-down, like, original, like a tiny bit. I think I might have even played on like a Game Boy Advance. I think it might have been the Grand Theft Auto Advance that I tried it on. And this is after already playing like the main 3 on PS2, so it just felt weird. Like it felt
Yeah.
like like I guess you could say it was me playing like an indie game back then.
Yeah.
It felt a little off.
Like it's one of those ones that like at the time it was like really interesting and like pretty groundbreaking for what it did and stuff. But yeah, like if you go in thinking like it's so different from what Grand Theft Auto is now, but for what it did at the time, it was really unique and really interesting. And so for me, that was always something kind of neat.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you always got to give props to the originals.
Mm-hmm. All right, what is your number 2?
Number 2, mostly for the online purposes, but like GTA 5, because the amount of time that I spent with friends in those games were just like I couldn't get enough of it. Like I put so much time on console, and then it was free on Epic at one point last year. And because we had nothing to do in the pandemic, we just played a crap ton of it. And like I played way more because I was all my friends, they just want to do like the heists and stuff. I was like, I want all the shit. So I would spend like I would literally get home from work each day and just plop in like couple of podcasts, get or like if somebody that I watch on YouTube had like a really long video, I'd plop all that together, I'd have my playlist for the night, and I would just grind and grind and grind and just make so much money to the point that I had a lot of stuff. And I did it without paying for currency because I don't believe in that stuff. Because it is possible. It takes a lot of work, but it's possible. But like,
Yeah.
I played the single player. I didn't love it, but I wasn't really playing it for that anyway. Like as soon as they announced there was going to be an online portion, I'm like, that's what I want because I wanted to be able to play like a game that I love with my friends instead. Because I played a little bit of like GTA 4's like sandbox multiplayer, whereas GTA 5 was supposed to be like with story and actual missions and cool stuff like that. So that was its key thing for me. The story was fine though.
Yeah, for me, Grand Theft Auto is really good. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 is really good. I'm not going to take that away from it, but like it's one of those that has some great ideas. Like I think the heists and how they do the heists are awesome. Like the preparing for them and then having the 3 playable characters and alternating between the 3 of them on how to kind of do the heists are really cool. However, I feel like there is a bit of like there's a lot of filler in that game and just like none of the characters are super likable in the sense that like there's a lot of annoying characters and like the story is not great. The heists are awesome. They're a great highlight. The game looks great. It plays great, but at the same time, the online didn't really do anything for me. And when you look at something like Grand Theft Auto 4 and all that single player DLC that they had versus the online that we got for GTA 5, for me, it's not GTA 5 does not appeal to me. It's not the thing that calls me to play it. Clearly, I'm in the minority because it's now on 3 generations and it's doing gangbusters, but it doesn't resonate with me. It has some great ideas, it has some great features, but it's not long enough for me to put it in my top 3. So for me, my number 2 would be Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So for me, Grand Theft Auto Vice City just came out at a perfect time for me. Like I was old enough to know what Grand Theft Auto was, but not old enough to actually play it. So when I got to play it, it was awesome. I remember just being at like a friend's house, going there after school, and just playing Vice City with him. And like it was so much fun to just, go around riding around on a bike, just tearing up the town. Like the colors are awesome. The way it like kind of works.
Oh yeah,
Is awesome.
I would
like,
spend like hours in that game just on it. Like after I finished the story, I would just break out the PCJ, like the fastest motorcycle, get like a 2 or 3 star wanted level where it wasn't like completely unfair and they were just spawning like military on you, and just see how long I could go without falling off. Like even just little things like that.
I never actually played the full like Vice City campaign. Like basically, it became a situation of me and my buddy sitting on his bed, putting in like the all weapons codes. Like basically, the game became as we did like all weapon unlocks, and then we did like level 5-star wanted levels, and it was just a game of who could last the longest on 5-star wanted levels, and that's what we did, and it was so much fun to do it. So I feel like it was a nice combination of like great gameplay, cool aesthetic, and like a lot of the benefits and creature comforts that like we want. Like it's a Grand Theft Auto game that doesn't feel old, or it doesn't feel as old as some of the other ones. And so Vice City for me is number 2.
Yeah.
What is your number 1?
That's my number 1 without question.
Fair enough.
For me, it wasn't even a question. Even though I really do like most of the, except for GTA 4. GTA 4 I've never had a lot of nice things to say about.
Mhm.
All the PS2 games were fantastic, but I think in all honesty, like in terms of like story and gameplay, all three of them like intertwine. I don't think one of them shines above the other. It's just the atmosphere, like the look of Vice City and the soundtrack, which to me still
Mhm.
to this day is not even close. The best Vice City, or not the best Vice. I guess it is the best Vice City, unless GTA 6 ends up being one. Vice City is easily the best Grand Theft Auto game in terms of its music library. There is so like there's an absurd number of really classic, like perfect, like high octane tracks. Whereas like you go through the radio stations in GTA 5, like unless you spend hours on Spotify listening to random tracks, most of it just you have no idea what the hell you're listening to.
Mhm.
You turn on like either the rock station or the pop station specifically with Vice City, and you know like half the songs.
Mhm.
They're all like for what for how many amazing tracks that game has. Like it's amazing that they got all of those under one thing and didn't have to spend like so much money that it was just absurd at that point.
Yeah.
I really do wonder
And
how much they paid for all that licensing, because like the amount of tracks, it just seems crazy.
mhm. Well, like, I think one of the other things not to like to take away from Vice City is that like if you look at the stuff that precedes it, um, it's all very like it's got a brown tint until Grand Theft Auto 5. Like San Andreas is kind of brown. Grand Theft Auto 4 is pretty much just brown, and it's like it doesn't have that same color pop and that like neon color lights that like the Vice City does, and I think that's
Yeah, it's definitely a
what makes
big
it
part of
awesome.
why people remember it too, because it's hard not to forget it,
Hmm.
or
Yeah,
hard to forget it.
yeah. So of all the ones that are being released, this is probably the one I'm most excited to play again.
I mean, it's why
Um,
everybody's hoping that whatever the newest one is going to be back in Vice City, because they want to see what it looks like with like proper modern day graphics now.
yeah. For me, number one though, I'm gonna give it to Grand Theft Auto 3. Much in the same that I said for Grand Theft Auto 2. I think Grand Theft Auto 3 is probably one of the most important games, probably in history, in the sense of what it did for the franchise and also what it did for like gaming. Because like this was at the early stages of open world gaming and 3D like open worlds, and so it does a lot that it contributes not just to what Grand Theft Auto is and what it became, but also just to gaming in general. So it was really unique in its time. Does it play well? Nah, not really. Does it look great? Hell no. It looks really old and really clunky and stuff. But like for what it did for its time, like it's a very influential game. And I've always said like if you were gonna make a top 10 list of like the 10 most important games to the industry, like Grand Theft Auto for me would be one of them. Just because you have that open world map that you could pretty much go anywhere. I don't think there's much loading screens once you're in the world. I think it's just once you go into missions that it loads up. But to have that open world sort of thing, like you got to remember back when this was the case, like open world games were like, I think like there was like GoldenEye, there's Mario, but like Mario was like you just load up the levels. Same with like James Bond, they were like small contained. This, I don't want to be quoted in saying like I'm like this is for sure, but this was definitely one of the first truly open world 3D games. And so to take the Grand Theft Auto series from 2D GTA 2, GTA 1 to a 3D realm in GTA 3 is really amazing. And so for me, that's why I put GTA 3 as my number one.
Cool, cool. I
So
mean, at least we seem to be pretty much in agreement on like two of them where they belong. So
yeah, and I think we agree. Like Vice City is pretty good, and we all agree that GTA 4 is the weakest of all of them.
well, because my biggest thing with four, right? Like to just dumb it down, like I know the point in GTA is that they're all criminals and they're all bad people, but
Mhm.
for the most part, there's something to love in them. Like it was really hard not to like Tommy Vercetti. It doesn't
Mhm.
really matter in 3 because he's a mute. Claude's a
Yeah,
mute. It doesn't make a difference. San Andreas, it was really hard not to like CJ.
yeah,
Unless you didn't stop the damn train. Oh no, follow the
yeah.
damn train. Sorry.
Follow the damn train.
And
Yeah.
even with like 5, like yeah, like they're pretty scummy. It's hard not to like Franklin though. Franklin's pretty chill. But
Yeah.
like then you get into Michael, who's on the fence, and then Trevor's just a psychopath. So you rally.
Trevor's endearing in his own weird way. Like
Yeah,
you don't
but
want
at
to
the
hang
end
out
of the
with him,
day,
but
like the things he does, you can't agree with either. So it's
no, 100%. But him, it's just fun to watch that train wreck. But
yeah,
Michael is not fun, nor is he like relatable or likable.
And then you go to 4, and you get Nico, who I literally, and no matter how much I played that game, I can't find a reason to even be remotely interested in what you have to offer. Because he just seemed like a miserable prick.
Yeah.
And I know that it wasn't that good because I don't even know if I got halfway through the game ever, and I've tried 3 different times to play through it. I've never finished 4.
Yeah.
And I never even tried the DLC ones. I have no idea if The Lost and the Damned or the Ballad of Gay Tony are any good. I have no idea.
Yeah.